Called. The question is, this House has considered the steel industry. Jessica Morden.
Thank you very much, Mrs Harris, and also always a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. And can I declare an interest as a member of Community Union and GMB Union and chair of the Community Parliamentary Group. Can I congratulate the Honourable Member for Boston and Skegness for securing what I think is the first debate on steel in this Parliament, and we've had many debates on steel during the Parliaments in which I've been here. And of course, I agree that steel is the steel industry is of the utmost strategic importance to this country, to our economy, to our security, and we must cherish it. And it's absolutely vital that we protect it. I would draw his attention to the fact that there is a very active all-party steel group here in this place, which has been fighting for many years for our steel industry. And I do hope the Honourable Member will take an interest in that group and play a constructive part in it in the months ahead. I chose to do my first question to the Prime Minister of this Parliament on steel and the need for this new government, who I know is very serious about steel, and we have inherited a very difficult situation to work in, but I use that Prime Minister's question to ask the Prime Minister to work in partnership with both businesses and the trade unions to secure a transition that's right for the workforce and delivers economic growth. Because of our past in Wales, we know well that deindustrialisation can be devastating to our communities. And in his reply to me, the Prime Minister did confirm he understands we need our steel in this country, that we need our steel made in this country, and we are going to need more, not less. We need steel because we need steel to deliver our green infrastructure. And it's the duty of the government to ensure that jobs, that communities and people are not ignored in the transition. And I look forward very much to working with... Give way, indeed.
Alex Ballinger.
Thank you to my honourable member for giving way, and thank you to the member for Boston and Skegness for calling this important debate. I just wanted to note that the West Midlands region is the third largest region for the steel industry, and there are 5,000 jobs generated in this region. My Black Country constituency of Halesowen, many of the jobs working in the steel sector there, including at Crosby Forge, which I was lucky enough to visit a few months ago. Whilst I support the green transition, does the honourable member agree that decisions need to consider what is right for the workforce in the steel industry, and any decision should safeguard the future of the steel industry in the West Midlands?
Jessica Morden.
For that intervention, and the steel industry is very important for many of our communities, and as we know, jobs in the steel industry pay on average more in communities that really need them, like mine in South Wales and my honourable friends. And I do agree that it should be a fair and just transition for our communities and downstream industries which are dependent on it. And I look forward very much to working with the new steel minister on this, and with the steel unions, who actually do stand up very strongly for their workforce, the community, for GMB, for Unite, and have worked incredibly hard for their members and really understand the value of those jobs, and the UK Steel, the trade body, as well. For us in Wales, and clearly in Scunthorpe too, it's been an extremely challenging time for the steel industry. The deal for Port Talbot, inherited from the last government, means support for the new electric arc furnace to secure the long-term future, but with the blast furnaces obviously now closed, means heavy job losses. The new government's deal is better, I believe, than the plan announced in September 23 by the last government, and sees improved redundancy packages, training, and more commitments on investment. If the government had been able, this government had been able to start negotiations just a year earlier, I have no doubt they would have been able to get an even better deal. And over the last 14 years, whilst honourable members representing steel communities, including my honourable friend for Aberavon, my steg, have been fighting hard in here for investment and for an industrial strategy for a fair transition, even any kind of plan from the party opposite. But we were fighting a government who had no industrial strategies, just occasional stick-in-plaster solutions in a revolving door in a department which saw 12 steel ministers come and go. It was a dereliction of duty, and it left the steel industry in an extremely perilous position, and it was woeful neglect. I am pleased that this government acknowledged the scale of the challenge. On this side of the House, we've never believed that decline is inevitable. We want to see an industry not just adapt, but thrive. And I welcome the Secretary of State's announcement there's to be a steel strategy in the spring, and I look forward to honourable members being part of that, and to the government giving us a long-term plan, something we have desperately needed. I'm proud to represent Llanwern Steelworks and I've been the constituency MP for almost 20 years, and I really pay tribute to the workforce who have been through phenomenally difficult times but are passionate and committed to what they do, including the trade union reps in that plant. We produce world-class products in Llanwern. Our automotive steel is fantastic, and the commitment secured in the new government's deal with Tata for investment in Llanwern will keep the site, hopefully, and its world-class workforce at the cutting edge of steel making. Llanwern is a living example of the potential that investment and innovation can bring to our industrial heartlands, having a new output record in recent months of 14 kilotons in a week following the introduction of new technology on the Zodiac galvanising line. To the asks, the UK steelmakers need competitive electricity prices, paying 50% more than competitors in France and Germany, and this said this many, many times in steel debates over the years, adding 37 million to UK steel electricity costs. So can the Minister address this in her closing remarks, not least committing to track the disparity between countries? Addressing the issue of the UK carbon border adjustment mechanism, the ask by UK Steel to move forward the implementation in line with the EU or implementing this in 2026, lest we see displaced steel from the EU flooding into the UK. With steel safeguards expiring in 2026, work with the industry to address the issue of global overcapacity. With this year alone, China is expected to export 100 million tonnes of steel, the entirety of the UK steel supply for 13 years. This is a significant threat which has the potential to impact on any government support for the industry elsewhere, and of course procurement, which I hope will be at the very heart of steel strategy. This government's ambitions for house building, for new energy projects, for wind turbines, offshore, onshore wind. We're going to need lots and lots of steel, and let's make sure that it's UK steel. Steel is absolutely vital for any climate solution, and steel workers themselves accept the need to decarbonise, but they need a partnering government committed to a just transition, and I know with this steel minister we can all work together to ensure that.
Martin Vickers.